Hey guys, we have some really interesting news for you today. As you're probably aware, yesterday morning, Square Enix had their Final Fantasy 30th anniversary opening ceremony, and they didn't have much to say about the Final Fantasy VII Remake in that event, but Yoshinori Kitase has done an interview with Famitsu, and Siliconera has given us a translation of that interview, and it kind of goes over some questions they have about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, if you're interested in the original source for this, it's here at gamestalk.net, and this is apparently where Siliconera is getting the Japanese that they translated. But according to Siliconera, this is what it says in the interview. The first question is, what's the progress condition for Final Fantasy VII Remake looking like? And Kitase responds by saying, we're currently brushing up the scene from the announcement trailer. We can now see the line of quality that we're aiming for more clearly, but there's still a ways to go. Very interesting to me that, you know, he says specifically we're still brushing up on even what we showed before. I mean, I think that's obvious that they would be doing that, to be trying to increase the quality. I think one of the things that a lot of people I know at least were kind of laughing at with one of those early trailers was Wedge's voice, the English voice for Wedge. You're here to save the planet. So I'm hoping that things like that are being addressed, voice work, and additionally it looks like just the quality overall. They're still brushing up on those scenes from that trailer, so after all of this time, and with as much as they seem to be aiming for high quality with this, hopefully we're going to get something really great when they unveil this finally. Second question is, should the production be prolonged due to being in multiple titles? Will the rest of the titles maintain the quality from the first? Kitase responds by saying, with the quality line set in place, it's our duty to carry on and protect it until the very end without having any disturbances for the episodes under production. But of course, as we advance through the episodes, it'll be natural to have quality that is fitting for the next generation of when the episode releases. This is really interesting. It seems as if what he's implying here is that this will be running on even into the next generation of consoles. And this is something we, kind of speculated on and talked a bit about in one of our previous podcasts. But it seems as if that you'll start it on the PlayStation 4 for an episode or two, and then you'll have to buy a PlayStation 5 to continue playing the game. I'm really not sure how I feel about that. Again, it will all kind of depend on how much content is in each specific episode. If each one feels like a self-contained, complete game, fully featured, then, I think that that's fine. I think that if you look at it as, a trilogy or an episodic thing that has multiple installments that are each its own individual game, instead of looking at it as a remake of one game, then it would be fine. But now that they're talking about spanning multiple console generations, I'm really hoping that each episode doesn't feel like an episode, but feels like a self-contained complete game. Otherwise, I'm thinking that a lot of people might have a lot of backlash to this, especially if they're going to have to buy another console just to finish the story that they already started. So, interesting little tidbit there, and I hope that they will talk about this in more detail soon and really give us a clear view and definition of what we can expect from Final Fantasy VII Remake. Is it multiple games, or is it one game that is split into multiple parts? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Will there be DLC and smartphone developments as we saw in Final Fantasy XV? I'd like to use that as a reference. So yes, they're going to have smartphone developed apps and games to sort of go alongside it. A live stream or a program to keep in touch with the users is something I like to do. But Final Fantasy VII Remake will be episodic, and if we want to have to go all the way to the end of the original version, then I believe we'll need to devote everything we got for it. So I have no idea what will happen for things such as filler development between episodes and other works. So, with the Final Fantasy 15, they had those live stream updates that they would do to let people know what they were working on. Maybe they could do something similar for Final Fantasy VII. I don't see why not. But, when he's saying things like, if we want to go all the way to the end of the original version, we have to give it everything, devote everything we got for it. It seems like they are really blowing this up into an absolutely massive project. And that's ambitious, certainly. It's ambitious, and if they can pull it off, it could be very, very cool. But there's part of me that's starting to feel like maybe this is too ambitious. The original game is to beat the main story just under 40 hours. That's it for the whole game. It's a 40-hour game on kind of like a general relaxed playthrough. And if you really want to go through and do all the side quests, you bump that up to 60. If these episodes are meant to be full games in and of themselves, priced $60. Again, we don't know this. I'm just saying, if this is the case, and it's 3 episodes or longer, you are adding unbelievable amounts of content to the game. Story content that you're changing or adding or whatever. And I'm not sure that that's necessary. I don't think you have to go that far to deliver something the fans would be happy with. But I don't know. We still don't really know that much, so we'll have to wait and see. Okay, talking about battles, he says the base of it is solidified. Tetsuya Nomura is a given, and Mitsunori Takahashi, who worked on the Kingdom Hearts series and Dissidia Final Fantasy series, so I think we can expect a battle system along the lines of one of those 2 games, which is fine with me. I think that both of those games have pretty great battle systems. I think Dissidia, in particular, I really, really, really enjoyed playing. You guys know that I'm a story-first kind of guy. Generally, story's a higher priority for me than gameplay, generally speaking, but with Dissidia, it's kind of the other way around. The gameplay is what really draws me into that, and that's the reason I play it, because the story I don't really care about for Dissidia. So, I'm okay with this. I think it's a pretty cool direction to go. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, and they want the original combat in it, and I get that. I really do, and I feel for you, for sure. But at least, my personal feeling is that I really enjoyed Kingdom Hearts' battle system, and I really enjoyed Dissidia's battle system. It'll be interesting to see if they can take something like that as a baseline and then give you the ability to switch characters, in real time. So switch to Barrett, switch to Tifa, switch to Cloud during the course of the battle. I think that's the one thing that I at least want to have, is being able to control any of the members at any time. I know that they had originally wanted to do that with Final Fantasy Versus 13, but they ended up cutting that because they weren't able to make it work for 15. But maybe they'll be able to get that working here, and if they're able to do that, I'll be happy. The next question is funny, because he says, what will happen to the Materia system? And he's like, there's still a lot that I can't say about it, but we won't be removing any parts of the original Final Fantasy VII that was well received. Again, kind of a vague statement, but they are going to try and retain the Materia system, at least the parts that were well received, whatever that means, and however they obtained that information. I'm guessing through, surveys. But they're going to try and retain the Materia system and not remove any parts that were well received. Take that as you will. Tetsuya Nomura talked about wanting to show the progress of Final Fantasy VII Remake sometime this year. That's what we're hoping for, but it's still undecided. However, as for when we'll release the next information, for example, I think that it'd be nice if we could have it playable or a trailer for it at an event. I think part of that is pretty obvious. The one thing that I find interesting is that we're still undecided about whether they're going to show the progress of Final Fantasy VII Remake sometime this year. I, for one, I believed what I had heard from people who have sources at Square Enix that were saying that the release of the game was going to be in 2017. But if this is his sort of response to this question, that it's undecided whether they'll show progress on it at any time this year, then I think we can take that as almost a certainty that the game will not be released in 2017, which is a good thing in my opinion. I when people were originally telling me this, that they believed it would be a 2017 release, And I was like, wait, that's only 2 years after they unveiled that it had started development at E3 in 2015. I feel like that's too short. They need at least 3 years, in my opinion. And so it seems like it's much more likely that we'll get the game in 2018. And I'm okay with that. I'm glad that they're taking the time to polish it. I don't know. It really does make me wonder what kind of troubles they're having if after 2 years of development they're still not really ready to show anything. It makes me wonder what about their original concepts that they showed off that they've had to change or alter, whether that's battle system or even the way it looks. Because I mean, that trailer seemed to show off quite a bit of at least that first bombing mission, and here I mean, they're not ready to show anything else after 2 years. It just makes me wonder how much has changed and how much they really feel like they need to solidify as like this is a final example of what you're going to get before we show it off, if that makes sense. And then here a little, please remake Final Fantasy VI. We're currently working on Final Fantasy VII, so I'm also asked the same from company staff, but I'll keep it pending for now. So it's possible. We'll see how well that this thing does. All right, then we have this interview with Hajime Tabata, the director of Final Fantasy XV, answering some questions based on the game. They're using this as a source. So if you want to take a look at the source, if you speak Japanese, apparently this is where they're pulling it from. But this is a weekly Famitsu interview here. First question was, what's the ratio between Final Fantasy XV's physical and digital sales? It says, based on the company's average, there's been a whole lot of sales of the digital version. We've seen good numbers not only in Japan, but also in North America and Europe, so we're happy about it. So lots of digital sales on top of the at least 5 million initial units that they shipped out. I think they sold through those and have a second shipment that they've sent out. So Final Fantasy XV has sold very well. And I think that's to be expected from the aggressive marketing that they did. Second question, what kind of feedback have you received from players overseas, given that they're so accustomed to open worlds? He says, as a current generation game, there's been a lot of satisfied feedback. We've seen an impressive amount of feedback, such as it's a very important title as it's a major step in Final Fantasy moving forward to the next stage. I've seen that a lot too. A lot of people saying this is a great step in the right direction. I've heard a lot of people saying things like that. However, players that put maximum priority on story, people like me, have the same opinion as those in Japan. Their level of satisfaction is low. That's a very interesting statement. And you can look at the Japanese Amazon listing for Final Fantasy XV, and you'll see that the rating of the game is much, much lower than it is in Western territories. And so it's interesting that he seems to recognize here that people who really prioritize story he says low. The satisfaction level is low. And so that's telling to me. I'm glad that he's seen that feedback, and hopefully Square will take that and implement it both into these DLCs that are coming out and give us more story, make it come together a little bit better with the DLCs they released for Final Fantasy XV, but more importantly in their future projects. Were there any parts of the story that were cut out of necessity? And Tabata says not particularly. Okay, I have a hard time believing that. With all that we know, and with everything that's been said by other people who worked on the team and, leaked information and stuff, I don't know if I believe you in this particular case, Tabata. I don't want to call you a liar, because he says not particularly, which is not like a straight no, but I don't know, that's kind of hard to believe. When you update Chapter 13, will there be a mechanism for players who have cleared it to be able to play it again? He says, I'm thinking about those things together. So they're looking for a way to have you just jump straight into the new content when they release it versus making you play the whole game through again. I really hope they have a chapter select. I think that would be the best way to do that. What's going on with Final Fantasy XV's virtual reality content? Development is progressing, but we haven't progressed to the point where we can say specifically when it'll be released. So the VR stuff, no date in sight for that. Fast travel loading is long, ... It's honestly difficult because there's a lot of information to load. We're thinking of various ideas though. Yeah, that's just tough for, the PlayStation 4 and with how large the game is. any update and downloadable content news outside of what was announced. They announced both Prompto and Gladio's episodes that will be coming out. So he says, although there are no plans, I have one ambition, and that's to freely travel the world by car. However, since realizing this in its existing state means overcoming some very high hurdles and tremendous debugging, the prospect of implementing it is impractical. I wonder what he means by this. Traveling like the whole world? I mean, like outside of just the Duskai, the open world region we have in the game in Lucius. Outside of that, you're saying you'd want to be able to travel by car to Accordo and into Niflheim and Tenebrae, like all of that? All of that? I mean, he's saying that he has an ambition for this and that it's impractical under the given circumstances, but I don't know. When you have feedback and you acknowledge that people are not satisfied with the story, but your ambition is to make it so that you can drive over the whole world, I don't know. Just me personally, I think you have a problem with priority there. My ambition in his shoes would be to address the things that people are not satisfied with, not add an extra sort of thing that I don't know if I've ever seen anyone else asking for. I don't think anyone's asking for being able to drive the car anywhere in the world. Like, just freely drive wherever you want. I don't think people are asking for that. I think people are asking for more clarity in the story. So I would focus on that if I were you, Tabata. Okay, this is translated a little strangely, but it says, in the movie there were areas that you couldn't go to in the game. Will the amount of areas increase? So I thought that the interviewer was asking about Kingsglaive, like with Insomnia and some of the other regions they talked about that the Kingsglaive were from. And then Tabata responds by saying those videos made uses of glitches. So he's referring to the videos that showed the guy glitching and running around in the Niflheim map, like all over that second continent, which was totally modeled out with even some like cities and stuff with buildings. Like, it's all stuff that you're looking at from a distance when you're on the train. But that was all modeled out, and if you haven't seen that video, I'll post a link to it in the description. But so he's responding to the question about the movie, which I thought was Kingsglaive, by saying that video made use of glitches. There's a large map being used on the train route in the second half of the game. Since that area isn't completely made, opening it up as an area you can freely traverse is difficult as is. We might remake playable areas in future expansions, but since that would take a year, it's not currently in our plans. For argument's sake, if we were to prepare new fields, Insomnia would also be a candidate, but that would also take a year's worth of work. So it's interesting that, he's not taking it off the table, but he's saying, yeah, this would take a very long time to do. So there's no plans for it currently. Let's get these DLC stories rolled out first and see if we want, or if there's even demand for an expansion of Final Fantasy XV after that. I would expect that Square's, at that point, their focus would shift totally to Final Fantasy VII Remake, so I don't think we should expect this to happen by any means. But it is interesting that he at least, isn't totally like shutting the door on the idea, right? Regarding a release on other platforms, he says, I'd like to release the game on PC as a technical attempt. I want to show PC users Final Fantasy XV running on high-end machines, and we personally would like to see it too. Also, I'd like to try developing on PC to pursue a unique way of playing with PC-exclusive features like making your own quests and enjoying the world using things like mods. And I really like that idea, and I hope that they eventually do that. Okay, moving on to news about Nintendo Switch. One of the big announcements at the Switch unveiling event was that they're going to have a paid online service, something similar to like Xbox Live, right? That announcement came with some controversy to the way that they're approaching it. I mean, for instance, having to do voice chat through an app on a phone, borrowing, the games, the classic games that they'll have from the NES and SNES. It's like you get access to that for 1 month, but then you don't have it anymore. There's a lot of things they're doing there that people are not happy about, and I think rightfully so. But today, it seems that they're announcing the price It says here, the upgrades will likely apply to multiplayer online gaming and the library of downloadable classic games and carry an annual fee of 2,000 yen to 3,000 yen. In either case, whether it's 2,000 yen or 3,000 yen, that's going to come out, as it says here, between 1760 and 2640. In either case, that's more than half of the price of the other online services provided by Sony and Microsoft. So that's much, much cheaper. So an annual fee of what I would guess between $20 and $25 is actually pretty palatable. Okay, so it says here that Kimishima also said Nintendo is studying adding virtual reality functionality to the console. If we're able to resolve the issues of playing VR comfortably for long hours, we'll support it in one form or another. So yeah, they're looking into VR. It'll be interesting to see what they can do with that, with the power of the console. So we'll see what they come up with, if they can come up with anything. And lastly, we have a Super Bowl commercial that they're going to be showing for the Nintendo Switch. It's pretty interesting. Kind of similar to what they've shown off so far. They're really focusing on young adults, people in their 20s and 30s. That's who they're really going after here. But showing Breath of the Wild, playing it in bed. So that's interesting. The very first use of it that you see is that it's next to his bed and he wakes up and sort of just grabs it and starts playing it. This is primarily how I'll be playing the Switch personally. So I wonder if they had, any sort of like data or survey or whatever that they had pulled together to decide how they showcase and when they showcase the different ways in which you can play it. But this is primarily how I'll be playing it, so I thought that was interesting. Then they showed, for the first time, I think, a kid in a Switch commercial. But, playing with Dad, they're playing ARMS. So they showed ARMS off there. Then they've got, I think, the 1-2 Switch game. And some people at a park. Teenagers. Then they've got a party here, young adults playing different games. They go back to the guy from the beginning who was playing it as he's getting ready in the morning, and then he goes and plugs it into the TV so that they show that it's a home console as well as a portable console. And then here they got a bunch of kids playing Mario Kart. Again, kind of the first time that they've shown kids and families. It's usually been a focus on, young adults and stuff like that. But anyways, the fact that this is a Super Bowl ad is also interesting, because that's a lot of money. You got to spend a lot of money on a Super Bowl ad. And the reason why it's kind of strange to me that they're doing it is because they're currently sold out. The Super Bowl is this Sunday, and they are sold out of you can't pre-order a Switch right now. So they're going to play this commercial, and a bunch of people are going to become aware of it that didn't know about it before. Like, whoa, I want to get that. And they won't be able to. So I kind of question that. Like, is it just... obviously, it's just a move about making people aware of the thing. It's the first Super Bowl ad that Nintendo has ever done before. So that's important. That's kind of a landmark. That's a lot of marketing money on something that people won't be able to buy on the day that the commercial is seen for the Super Bowl. So, I don't know. Kind of interesting, but, it is what it is. Interesting little commercial here. Go ahead and take a look at it if you'd like. And that wraps it up for today's news. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments, and we'll see you again real soon. Thanks.